Power Query doesn't offer Regex support, or if you want to execute JSON Path or XPath on XML, then you cannot do that using Power Query. And I had this goal for so long that, if we can do this in Power Query, that would be really, really cool. Okay. And Wayne showed me one way of using Regex in Power Query. I'll put the post link in this video description, so please check that out. In this video, I'm going to show you an improvement of this particular approach. Basically, the approach will be a bit different than what Wayne showed in this particular post. So you can check that out and I'll show you my way of doing this. Okay. Basically, this is our end goal. Okay. We'll have a text, we'll have a pattern. I'll just execute the Power Query and this will run that particular regex on that particular text using this particular pattern and give me the return result. Okay, so it's not only limited that it should be only regex and pattern matching. You can have, like, let's say JSON path, you can have XML. Okay, but you need to build those code using Python. Okay, so that's our end goal, to show you that you can build out your own API using Python and you can execute those and extend Power Query capabilities beyond what is available. So that's our final end goal. To achieve this particular end goal, we need to do a couple of things. Okay, the first thing is that we need to have a GitHub repository or GitHub profile. We need to create a GitHub repository in that. And the second one is that we need to have Python installed in your machine, or if you don't, then please install that. You should have Visual Studio Code. That will be easy. I think everyone should have that. Then you need to have an account on this render. Okay, so that's the requirements, and I'll just show you everything from scratch so that you can build this out if you haven't worked in any one of these in the past. Okay, so let's get started from this GitHub. Okay, so I'll just create a repository. Okay, new repository. So let's say PQ Regex. That's the repository name, and I'm just going to create a private repository, and that's it. So that's our repository name. Now, if I just want to clone this particular repository, I just need to grab this particular URL, and then in this particular folder, I'm just going to open Git Bash, or you can use command prompt as well. So just let me open Git Bash, git clone, and this particular repository. So that's it, and it will clone this into this particular folder, pq-regex. Or we can do in different way, that let's say I don't have that, so I'm just going to create a folder, pq regex. It's not necessarily need to be the same name as the repository, but it's better to have in this way. Okay, so in this particular folder, I'm going to add all the Python code and all the necessary files in this particular folder, and I'm going to link this particular folder to this particular repository that I will host on this render. And once we host that in the render, then I'll be able to use that particular API. So let's move on. I'm just going to open this steps.md file in Visual Studio Code. So let's just open this, open preview. Okay, so that's it. And in this particular pq-regex, okay, I'm just going to open this particular folder in Visual Studio. So let me just search this Visual Studio Code, open folder, and then I'm just going to select that particular folder, test API. That's it. Okay, once we open this particular folder, then I need to follow these particular steps. Okay, so let me just, so I do have this particular folder, right? Yeah. Now I just need to follow these steps. So the first step is that we need to create a virtual environment where we are going to install all the required library that I'm going to use in this particular project. So for that, create virtual environment. So just copy this. So let me just do something. Okay, that will be better. In this particular folder, so just open this terminal, new terminal. So it's opening up the terminal, and then I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Okay, so once you paste it here, it is going to create a virtual environment in this particular folder. Okay, pq-regex in this particular folder. So it's taking a little while, but it will create the virtual environment, and we'll be able to see one particular folder in this particular folder. Okay, You can see it created that virtual environment. So we need to activate this virtual environment. So that's the second step. So hit enter. So you can see in the previous step it was PS. In this next step it says VENV. So it has activated this particular virtual environment. Now we need to install these libraries. Okay, that pip install FastAPI, UVcorn, and Pydantic. So I'm just going to copy this and then hit enter. So it will install all of these libraries that are necessary for this particular project. Okay, so you can see it's installing all of these libraries, and that's it. You can say venv, and then again we have this particular terminal. So now I need to create one file, that is main.py. Okay, and I'm not going to explain all the code, so I have written all of this code. This one, sorry. In this one, let me just grab this code and paste it here. Now let me explain what this particular code does. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so right now I do have only main.py. I do have the virtual environment so far, and in this main.py I do have two different endpoint. One is this get endpoint, that slash current time, and I do have another one that is post slash regex dash match. Okay, so we do have two different endpoint. One is for get request and another one is for post request. And in Power BI you can only do get and post. You cannot do put or delete or option request. So this is enough for this. So for the get purpose I'm just using this get current time. So I don't have any parameter. You can just call this particular endpoint and it will return you the current time as a JSON format using this particular as a key, current time as a key, and this is the value. Now I do have this particular base model. So basically this is for request. Okay, so for this particular post you are just going to pass me two things. One is this text, another one is pattern as a JSON, and it will be automatically translated as a object of this particular class. Okay, so it says endpoint to find all matches of regex pattern in a given text, and then I'm just doing some stuff like finding all and then returning the matches. And if we have any error, then just throw an error that invalid regex pattern or something like this. So I don't have any validation. This is the simplest example of endpoint. So I do have only two endpoint. One is this get, another one is for post. So I have done this. Okay, now let me just show you how to run this and test it out locally. Okay, so let me just grab this little bit. So I do have this, you can see venv, and if I go into this step, it says run the server, and to run this server we need to run this particular command. So let me just copy that, paste it here, run it here. And once you execute this particular line or hit enter, then it is going to reload this. Okay, I have not found in, no, it's there. Let me just save this. Okay, once you save this, it will start this. It says application startup complete, waiting for application startup server process, and start reload detected, change in main.py. Okay, so if we just open this particular alt plus click, it will open this link in a browser. Let me just copy this. If I go into this, it says not found, but if I just use docs, then you'll see we do have two different API endpoint. One is this current time, and if I just say try out execute, then you'll see the return value is this one, current time 2025-06-26. Okay, and we do have this one regex match, and you can say it's a request body, that's a required parameter, and then you can specify the string, that is the text, and another string, that is the pattern, and then we can execute this. So let me just show you this example. So try out price is 103, and I'm just going to, let's execute this, and you can see we get that response that is matches 1 2 3. So that's the simplest form of two endpoint. Okay, one is for get request, another one is for post request. Now we have developed this. Okay, now what we need to do, so we can run this particular server, right, using this particular command. So I'll add this steps file in the video description so you can follow along. Okay, now we need to freeze the environment. So when I'm saying freeze the environment, then what I mean is that we need to freeze all of the library that we have installed in this venv, okay, in this particular environment. And for that we need to run on command, and that is just this pip freeze requirement.txt. so just copy this, and then we need to activate this virtual environment again. So let's say that is this one and then this one, and it will create one text file in this particular folder, and you can see that we do have all of those libraries and their version. You can see we do have Pydantic, we do have FastAPI and H11 ID, and those are additional dependencies, but that's it. Okay, that's it from this side. Now what we need to do, we need to link this particular folder to the GitHub repository. Okay, and for that what we can do, I'll just have a terminal, and if I go into this particular repository, you can see or push an existing repository from the command line. So the first command that we need is we need to create that GitHub repository, git init. Okay, so let me just do that. I don't need, so let me just create a empty repository, and you can see it created that repository. Now what we need to do, just copy this actually, git init, and then we just need to add all the file. It has added all the files in this particular folder venv and pycatch. So let me just see the current status, and there are so many actually. So let me do it again. Okay, so let's see the git folder. I'm just going to delete that, and I'm just going to add a git ignore file so that it remove this pycatch venv. Now open terminal, git init, so create an empty repository, and git status, we do have git ignore main.py requirements.txt. now it's not showing those venv and pycatch because I have added them in the git ignore file. Okay, you can just copy paste this git ignore file in your project. Okay, now git add all, and if I just see the status now, you can see new file git ignore main.py requirements.txt. now we need to add this git remote add origin, this particular thing, this particular line. Okay, so just copy that line, paste it here, and enter. Now we need to push, we need to add this commit message, git commit initial. That's it. Now we need to push this to this remote repository. So let me just copy this, paste it here, and once we have done this, and let's refresh this, and you can see we do have three different files. One is this git ignore main.py requirements.txt. that's it. That's what you need in your project. So you can, if you can just copy paste these three files in that particular repository, and that's it. Okay, so we do have this one. We have done the REST API part. Okay, now we need to deploy this to render, and you need to sign up in this render website, and you can just use GitHub, okay, as your sign up method. And now you just need to go into this dashboard. So I have already created an account in this particular website, so you can do that as well. So let's just go into the dashboard, and I have already created one project in this particular account. So anyway, what we need to do, once we go into the dashboard, we need to click on this new, and then web service, choose this web service option, and then git provider. Now if you have connected your GitHub repository, or you have created the account using GitHub profile, then it will show you all the repository that you have in your username. And you can see, I can see the pq-regex, right? So just select this, and you can select, you know, any project you want. So pq-regex, and then we need to use Python 3. The main branch is this particular main branch. So if you go into this, we only have one branch, so that's not a problem, and that's okay. Let's keep as is. And the root directory, I don't need to provide the root directory. I need to use this pip install -r requirements.txt, and that's why we have run that freeze command. If you remember this freeze, the environment, so we have run that freeze command so that we do have this, you know, requirements.txt file, and then we can easily install all the required libraries from this requirements.txt file. Now the start command, so render runs this command to start your app with each deploy. To start this, you just need to copy paste this particular command. Okay, so just copy this and specify that here. So evcon main :app host 0.0.0.0 and port is port, and then you can use for hobby project. This is the free version. And environment variable, I don't need to set anything. So only thing that you need to specify is this one, start command. Okay, and you just need to select that particular, you know, repository, and that's it. Okay, now click on this deploy web service, and it will take a little while, but it will deploy that. Okay, and you will see all the logs. It says cloning from HTTP this particular, you know, repository, and then it's downloading all the required libraries, and it says successfully enlisted annotated types and so on. Then it says uploading build, and it says deploying, uploaded in 3.7 seconds, build successful. So it says build is successful. Okay, now it will run that particular command that we have specified in this section, this start command, evcon main app host, this one. So let's go into the event again, and you can see first deploy started at is initial demo REST API. So let's see the deploy, and let's see, it says it is already running. You can see it's a deploying, then it says running evcon main app host 00, and it says your service is live, available at your primary URL. So just click on this, and you can see it doesn't show anything, but let's go into that docs, and that's it. Now you can see we do have this one. This is from the local host. Okay, so just cancel that, and this is from that particular render, this particular website. Okay, and you can see the link you can copy from this section, or you can copy from available at primary URL, this one. Okay, or you can just copy from this one. Actually this is the same link. Okay, so that's how we get this particular project deployed on this particular render, and it's free of cost. Now what we need to do, we need to use these REST endpoints from Power Query, right? So we do have current time, we do have Regex match. So I'm just going to copy this base URL. Okay, that is this base URL, and I already built this particular Power Query code, and I was using another endpoint. So I'm just going to replace this particular line. Okay, so pq-regex.onrender.com/regex match. Okay, so that's the endpoint, and then I'm just passing this JSON, and if you look into this JSON, that's basically the data, and we have this text, and we have this regex pattern, but it will fail. Let me show you this. Okay, so if I run this, it says edit credential, let's connect this anonymously, and it says it failed, right? Web.Contents failed to get content from this one unprocessable entity, and the reason is that if you go into this data step, you can see it says regex_pattern, but if you go into this documentation, it says we need to provide this as a text and pattern, not regex_pattern. So let me just change this to pattern, and it should work. And see, so we do have this source step. So basically we are pulling this text and pattern, and then we are creating a record form of that particular table. Okay, and then we are just getting as a JSON. Okay, and then once we get that JSON, like JSON.fromValue data, that's the body parameter of this particular post request. And if you go into this Power Query, all find Web.Contents, you'll see that we do have URL and then options. Option is a record, and if you look into this, it says content. Specifying this value, change the web request from a get to a post using the value of this option as the content of the post. Okay, so if we specify the content, then that is a post request. Okay, so that's how we specify the content. So that's a post request, and we're sending this particular data, and the data is basically this particular record, but as a JSON format, right? So that's why I'm using JSON.from value of that particular record. So we get the JSON, we are passing that JSON as a body of this particular endpoint. And then Web.Contents, this will return me a JSON object, and basically that is what we see when we run this, like execute this, then we see the matches, right? So we get that JSON format here as well. You can see it says matches, this is a list 1 2 3 50, and I'm just extracting the matches and then converting this into a table. So it's the simplest form. Okay, now if I just push this, and that's it, right? So let me just change this to 60, and let's refresh this 1 2 3 60, and I don't need to keep this open anymore. And this particular API is hosted on this particular platform now. So if I just send this file to any user, they will be able to use this, and they will be able to use this endpoint. So let me just show you the other endpoint. Okay, so let's see, let me just let's create a new blank query. Web.Contents, and the URL is basically this one /current. Yeah, so you can say this current time, and we get that current time, and that's it. Okay, and I'm not sure if I explained this well, but basically let me explain where you can use this particular idea. Okay, so this is just for the regex part, and it's not the exhausted list. But let's say you want to filter a JSON. You understand that in Power Query you cannot run a JSON path query on a JSON text. Okay, let's say you have an XML and you want to run XPath query, and you cannot do that in Power Query. That's not available in Power Query. Let's say you have an HTML and you want to filter out that HTML using CSS selector or ID selector, or maybe any other selector. You cannot do that. But if you create those endpoints and deploy that in the render, then you can easily call that endpoint and pass that HTML as a body, and you can pass that CSS selector or any other selector as another key of that particular JSON of that particular body, and then it will just return you the data. Okay, so you can easily extend Power Query's capabilities using this Python voice. Okay, and it's a one-time task. So once you build this, that's the easy part. Okay, let's say if I just add another endpoint in this section, let me just open this. Let's add another endpoint, right? Simple endpoint to check if the server is running. Okay, message is spawned. So just save this. Okay, now we need to send this data to GitHub, right? So it's the same process. So git status, just to check what I have done, modified this main.py, add git commit, and git push. That's it. Okay, once I push this, and let me see if I can use that endpoint in this particular Excel file. So I'm just going to open Power Query editor. Let's create a new query, other source, blank query, Web.Contents. This is the website base URL, and then I think, yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh shit. Okay, we shape this, commit this again. So add all, git commit, fixed one issue, git push. So it started fixed one issue. I think it should. Let's open this. It's not running yet. Okay, so it's running this UVcorn. Once this is running successfully, then we'll be able to see that. Let's see. Let's run this again. Yeah, you can see ping. Let's test this out. Ping, get request, try out, execute. and I get this message pong, so it should be okay. Let's see, refresh preview. Yep. And if I run this, you can see I get the message. So basically the idea is that once you build this and then push these changes to GitHub repository, it will automatically reload this and it will rerun these particular changes. It will just redeploy this automatically. You don't need to do this anymore. Okay, so this is one-time task, and once you have set it up, you can just keep working on this particular Python file, and you can just easily use those endpoints from Power Query easily, and you can extend this Power Query functionality way beyond whatever it is possible using built-in functions. Okay, so that's the idea, that's the use cases. And that's it for this video. If you have any question or suggestion, feel free to comment. Have a good day.